wanna play some MVM?
Sure, I'm down. One map.
Sweet. How about some Ghost Town?
Some what?
So, most people don't know what Ghost Town is, which is kind of a bummer since I think it's one of the most fun game modes in TF2. And unfortunately, when you convince people to play it, this tends to happen. So, this is Ghost Town.
Cool.
Now, I recommend playing classes with a very high damage output.
What?
Sadly, most people don't really know what classes to play, which is understandable. Ghost Town is very different from other MVM maps. So I'm here today to teach you some of the best loadouts for Ghost Town, and if you use these, your chances of winning will skyrocket. Now, let's get this out of the way. I'm not a Ghost Town professional. I just play a lot and tend to notice what works and what doesn't. And with that being said, welcome to the ultimate Ghost Town loadout guide. Firstly, what is Ghost Town? Ghost Town is a man vs machine map and was added to TF2 on October 26, 2012. It is essentially the map Cold Town, but Halloween skinned. It is the only map in the game with the Nightmare difficulty setting, and unlike other maps that go from wave 1 to 6, Ghost Town only has one wave, wave 666, that comprises of this. Now, don't worry, they don't all show up at once. They're set in groups, giving you a bit of in-between time to go back to the upgrade station and upgrade some of your equipment. Speaking of upgrading equipment, you'll need to do this a lot. This is practically impossible without upgrades. Luckily, the game helps you out. You start the round with a whopping 5,000 credits, which can let you almost fully max out a primary. Also, resistances are very important. Trying to win without buying any is not recommended. Simply said, Ghost Town is absolute chaos, but in the best way possible. Ghost Town is constant action. Almost everything can one-shot you, and allows you to do stuff like this. Cool, right? But with all this information in mind, what do you play? Well, I'll tell you. I'll be talking about every class's loadout. But before I do that, I need to show you the Ghost Town tier list. And it looks something like this. In S tier, we have Soldier with his explosive splash damage as well as his high all-rounder damage. Demo for the same reasons as Soldier, and Sniper for his extremely high damage output. In A tier, we have Engineer with his Dispenser and Area Denying Sentry, and Pyro for his Air Blast as well as his AoE and crit damage. In B tier, we have Heavy for his poor tank damage and high reliance on teammates, and Medic for his healing and lack of damage. In C tier, we have Scout for his low damage output, and finally, in D tier, we have Spy for his low survivability, low damage, and extreme situational use. Without further ado, I'll be going from Scout to Spy, talking about what is, in my opinion, their best loadouts and how you should play them. Scout is, in all honesty, not the best class for this. Money isn't in the highest of demands, his primary doesn't deal very much damage, and trying to use a Fan of War can be a death wish in most situations. But he's not horrible. Mad Milk can be an absolute lifesaver for most classes and can easily turn the tide of battle into your favor. If you're gonna play Scout, I recommend using your milk at every opportunity you can on the giant robots, and focus mostly on taking care of stragglers that might get past the rest of your teammates. Your damage output isn't the best, but it can still take care of smaller enemies. Use the Fan of War on the highest priority targets, but make sure you get out of there after you use it, since it tends to attract aggro. For your primary, it's really up to you, but I recommend staying away from the Babyface's Blaster and the Backscatter as their downsides are too drastic to be used. At the very beginning, you should max out your Mad Milk, max out crit resistance, max out speed, put one into both explosive and bullet resistance, and then do as you wish for your primary. Soldier is the best class in this game mode. The mix of explosive damage and splash damage make him an absolute monster. But let's get one thing straight. Beggar's Bazooka buff banner is not the absolute best loadout for soldiers. Is it good? Yes. But there's one loadout that's just as good. And that loadout is the Airstrike Base Jumper. Wanna know why? Here's why. In addition to this, since you'll be spending most of your time in the air, you're a hard target to hit, meaning that you can stay alive for a really long time. Also, you're really good against tanks. While playing this loadout, I recommend you max out your rocket launcher before you do anything else. Once that's done, then you can start upgrading resistances. I recommend you avoid stuff like fire resistance, speed and jump boost, and passive health regen until later in the round since they don't benefit you too much. Also, make sure you always have crit canteens at your disposal. Learn where the ammo packs are on the map and where your engineer's dispenser is, if you have one. Although, I mean, if you want to run beggars, go ahead. It's a hell of a lot of fun and can deal some serious damage. Hey? Wanna play pyro? Well, before you do, you have to do something. Look here. Right here. What do you see? Range? Splash damage? Well, if you answered no to either of those, you're not playing pyro. Pyro is very good in most situations. He has a flamethrower that will melt through opponents and some gas that blows up a lot. However, at times he can be, well, completely useless. Pyro operates in close range combat. It's where he shines. Unfortunately, I'm sure that you can guess that being close to your enemy tends to backfire a lot. And unfortunately, on certain waves, you can't do anything. Which is why, as Pyro, you heavily depend on your team to fill in your gaps. You need to rely on your team to manage the flanks, snipers, and every far range one-shot wave. You, as a Pyro, should always be putting your full focus on tanks and the gas passer. Speaking of which, your loadout should only consist of the stock flamethrower or the flog. Stock if you want air blast, flog if you want more damage. The gas passer and homewrecker. The homewrecker because it's the only semi-useful melee with its remove sapper stat, and the gas passer for its massive AoE damage. Try and upgrade some of your resistances at the same time as your weapons, as you'll be taking a lot of damage. In addition, be sure to put a bit into movement speed later on, as it's quite useful for catching up against some enemies. Now I know what you're thinking, oh, Matt Sticky's in stock. And you'd be right. Upgrade the hell out of your grenade launcher and just go wild. You deal insane damage against every type of enemy. For your primary, I only recommend stock, as it technically deals the highest damage out of every primary. Nothing is of the highest priority, so just upgrade as you see fit. For your secondary, either you pick a sticky launcher for a high burst damage option, or you pick a shield for its resistance stat. However, if you want to play something a bit more special, you can play in one of the most powerful and fun classes in the entire game mode. Equip some boots, equip a shield, and equip the Scotsman Skull Cutter. Max out your melee, your shield, and put the rest into resistances, speed, and uber canteens. And you have become one of the most powerful classes ever. With this loadout, your damage output is insanely high, and because of how fast you can kill smaller enemies, you will constantly be healing yourself and will be getting constant guaranteed crits. Now of course, you might be saying to yourself, well that's good and all, but what about the bigger enemies that take a long time to kill? And normally, you wouldn't stand a chance against them. But that's where your trump cards come in. Uber canteens and milk. If your scout milks the giant robots, against most cases, you can out-heal their damage. Critical hits will heal you for 228 health, which is more health than you actually have. But of course, this doesn't work against every enemy. Some simply deal too much damage, and that's where Uber canteens come in. As a demo knight, you max out everything super early, meaning that you can just unload hundreds of credits into Uber canteens, and if you die, just go buy more. And in addition to all of this, you absolutely shred through tanks. If you buy crit canteens, you've got guaranteed crits you can use. If you didn't, just go kill some random scout running by, and now you've got crits again. I will say, however, wait before you buy reduced shield charge cooldown. That extra credit can instead be put into speed and resistances, which will help far more than charging. While originally writing this script, I only had one experience with heavy players, bottom damaging on everything. This had always led me to believe that heavy was the absolute worst choice you could pick. But after one lucky encounter with the player, my eyes were opened. Heavy is an absolute monster if you have a competent team. Heavy relies on his team more than any other class in the game would. If your team can't support you, you will fail. Period. As heavy, you easily shred through enemies, but against tanks, you're absolutely worthless. You can't do anything against tanks. You need a team that can take care of them for you. As for yourself, stay back. You don't need to get close to the enemy to deal a lot of damage. You can stay miles away and still be useful. Only get close if you know that you can risk it. Loadout wise, you might not believe me when I say this, but stock is better than the brass beast. The ability to move while firing is far more useful than a bit more damage. Secondary doesn't really matter since you'll never be using it. For melee, the gloves of running urgently's speed boost can help you get back to the front lines faster. As for your beginning upgrades, I have found this pattern to be the most useful. In the beginning, max out projectile penetration, max out firing speed, max out ammo capacity. Put 1 into knockback rage, put 1 into 25 health on kill, max out crit resistance, and put 1 into blast resistance. As for upgrades later on, do as you please. If you happen to have an engineer, ask for him, no, beg for him to place his dispenser on the low ground. If you've got constant ammo, you've got no worries in the world. But watch out for spies, they will stab you. Oh, also, buy crit canteens, they are very, very powerful. Engineer is a very useful class. His teleporters give his teammates easy access to upgrades, his sentry deals high damage and can take care of stragglers, and his dispenser, my god, his dispenser is a gift from the gods. As an engineer, your building placement is crucial. Every spot has its own advantages and disadvantages. So we'll quickly go through all the spots, starting with sentries. Your sentry should only be in 3 potential positions. Here, here, or here. This first position is good for an aggressive hold with your team, as they can hit enemies the moment they land on the ground. The downside, however, is that this sentry can easily attract all aggro, and when that happens, well, it's hard to keep alive. This second position is often best as it tends to receive support from your teammates. The downside to this one, however, is that it's located on the low ground and can therefore be overwhelmed by enemies. The third and final position offers a lot of safety to your sentry and is a very easy place to keep your sentry alive. This spot's downside though is that it is the farthest away from the action and will most likely end up dealing the least amount of damage. Anywhere further than this should only be kept for emergency situations. For your dispenser, it also should only be in one of these 3 spots. The only reason why it'd be here is to support yourself and your sentry. This isn't going to help out any of your teammates. Placing it here offers a lot of support for your teammates and is usually seen as the go-to for dispenser placement. And finally, placing it at the top here only supports 2 different classes, snipers and soldiers. It's an okay spot, but not really recommended. Finally, with teleporters, place the entrance here and the exit here or here. Placing it on the floor allows your teammates easy access to the upgrade station, whilst up here offers protection after teleporting. Also, a tip to all you NG players out there, turn your entrance around so that when you come out, you're not facing off the ledge. Also, don't be afraid to use your teleporter, it's right next to you. Go get your upgrades, you can get back in no time. For your loadout, equip the Rescue Ranger, the Wrangler, and the Stock Wrench. The Rescue Ranger can heal from afar, but its most useful ability is to pick up your buildings at range. Wrangler can shoot at targets outside your sentry's range, gives it a shield, and makes it shoot faster, therefore giving it more damage. And the stock wrench heals the fastest. Upgrade wise, upgrade your sentry to the max. Get double weight teleporter, but don't buy disposable sentry. It's absolutely useless. Max out your melee swing speed and your metal regen. The rest is up to you. And for the love of God, upgrade dispenser range. As a medic, you really only have two jobs: keeping your teammates alive and giving them crits. Sounds easy, right? Well, it's not. You have to be useful, or else you're just taking up a slot. Before anything, you have to use a Kritzkrieg. It is essential. All of your credits should be going into your minigun and resistances. At the beginning, buy projectile shield, 100% needed. Then, uber charge rate, uber duration, canteen specialist, and overheal expert. Then do whatever you want. After all of that, buy either crit canteens or uber canteens, depending on how you feel. You can't protect yourself. You deal practically no damage. You should be spending all your time near your teammates and rezzing them every time they die. Give them crits when they need it, for example, against dangerous giants or tanks. And use your shield to block incoming damage. Sniper is really good in this. He deals the highest damage output by a landslide. Explosive headshots are no joke. As a sniper, there is only one loadout you should ever run: a sniper rifle, the Caliginous carbine, and the bushwhacker. No bows. Max out your sniper rifle, and headshot, then headshot, then headshot. And you will find yourself at the top of the damage board by a lot. Sit right here, get some ammo when you need some, and you will carry your team. But wait, there's more. Max out your bushwhacker attack speed a little later in the round. When a tank spawns, pull out your Caliginous carbine, shoot it a bit, activate Crikey, swing your melee, profit. This is an absolute tank shredder and will definitely benefit your team much more than just shooting it. Unless you have crit canteens, but that's a waste. So I'm gonna be honest with you all, I've never seen a good spy on Ghost Town. Most spies I see don't really achieve much. This is why I don't recommend playing Spy, just because this game mode is not really suited for him. If you're gonna play Spy though, one of the main things you should be doing is collecting money. With your disguise kit and the fact of how you're always in the front line, you're pretty good at it. Your sapper can disable smaller enemies and slow down bigger ones, which can be useful. For your weapons, you should run the revolver or l'étranger, stock sapper, dead ringer, and the stock knife or kunai. Upgrade your knife and resistances, and good luck. There. Now you know the best loadouts to pick if you want the highest chance of winning. But remember, you don't need to play these. This game mode is meant for fun, and if having fun means maxing out an SMG and running around like an idiot, then go ahead. Thank you for watching.